Every day we're flooded with news, and often it is about the MSB and the work that we do.
God morgon till Anneli Bergholm Söder från Myndigheten för samhällsskydd och beredskap.
Med oss i studion här har vi Lars-Gunnar Strandberg. Välkommen hit. Vi är Myndigheten för samhällsskydd och beredskap.
Jag vill säga välkommen hit till Nils Svarts som är överdirektör Myndigheten för samhällsskydd och beredskap.
But what is it that gets space and publicity in the media? Well, we know for example that our missions, both in Sweden and overseas, are of interest to the media, because they're both newsworthy and relevant for our readers, our viewers and our listeners. That is why you can usually expect to find the media at disaster and emergency sites overseas where the MSB is working. And as the MSB becomes more known as an authority, so increases the media's interest in all our areas of work. So while working for the MSB, there's a good chance that sooner or later you're going to come into contact with the media.
Jag vill inte spekulera i vad andra kommuner gör eller inte, utan nu har vi gjort en framställan till regeringen.
And it is then that the MSB's media service can help you and support you. And you can always contact the MSB's media service, round the clock, every day of the week.
Hello! We are the press duty officers, and we are the one who's answering whenever you are calling 24/7.
What are the media interested in? The media are interested in how the MSB works before, during and after incidents. For example, they may be interested in hearing the results from collaboration conferences prior to storms, power cuts and floods. During the handling of an incident, the media are interested in drawing parallels to our preventive and preparatory work, because it isn't until an incident actually happens that the media become most interested in our preventive and preparatory work. Then there's a good chance of getting our message across and drawing parallels to ongoing incidents. During a flood, for example, we can talk about our flood mapping.
Så att här är det en verkligt stor risk.
And during explosives incidents, we can talk about our preventive work with dangerous goods. Anna, how would you describe the journalistic task?
Our job is to inform, comment and investigate the things that are around us in society.
Okay, and what characterises your working conditions?
We are working against a deadline, so it's short of time, and we have this space that we have to fill, and it's not so big, so it's quite hard work to do that.
And what would you say is a journalist's greatest challenge?
I think it's just what I said, actually, to find the right people, to be where things are happening, and to have a trustworthy source of information. Yeah.
So, Eric, is that why journalists simplify and angle what we say?
Exactly, so that's why it's so important that we simplify and summarize our message ourselves.
Eric, how much time can one expect on a TV or radio spot?
A normal feature in a TV or a radio news program is for about a minute and a half.
Not more than that. They usually film for half an hour.
Yes, but they film, say, 30 minutes and they use only 30 seconds. And that's why it's so important that you have a clear message, a message you have thought about before the interview.
How can you ensure that you do that then?
You can take advice from us at the MSB Media Service, and you can take advice with some colleague before the interview.
But a newspaper interview, they don't reduce those as much, do they?
Yes, but the space is still limited. Take a news article from the news agency TT, for example. It's not more than about 1,500, 2,000 characters, and that's not more than, say, about half A4. And that's why it's so important that you have thought about the message before the interview, even if it's a web article or a newspaper article.
What could happen otherwise?
The journalist is very well prepared, I can assure you, and if you are not prepared, the journalist will make an article or a feature that you maybe not will be satisfied with.
So what would be your most important advice?
Think about the message before the interview and stay clear to your message.
Okay. Eric, you mentioned earlier about how important it is to prepare a message in advance, but how can I be sure that I include the most important aspects?
The reporter mostly often have 6 basic questions, and that are what we call open questions that you can't answer yes or no to. And if you follow those 6 questions when you prepare yourself before the interview, you got the message.
Yeah. Okay, and what are those 6 questions?
Those 6 questions are what is the operation for? How is it being conducted? Why is it being conducted? Who is involved? Where is the operation? And when is the operation?
Yeah. And is there anything else I should think of when formulating my message?
Think about your language. Try to speak in a simple and easily understandable way. A way that everyone understands what you mean. So try to be as concise as possible. If you do that, your message will come across better.
Okay. Yeah, Eric, there's a lot of journalists that are quite interested to know where a person comes from. Why is that?
Journalism is often about identification, that the reader or viewer or listener shall be connected to the person that will be interviewed. We have an example here in Sweden from the Olympics last summer. There was 2 sailors that won gold, 2 Swedish sailors that won gold. And one of those sailors, his name is Fredrik Löv, is from Kristinehamn in Värmland. And all the Swedish newspapers had the headline, "At last Sweden won gold." But one of the local newspapers in Värmland, Värmlands Folkblad, had the headline, "Värmländskt OS-guld." That means in English, at last
gold from Värmland.
Gold from Värmland, yes. Just because one of the sailors was from that region. And that's something.
I remember that.
Yes, you remember that. And at MSB, I very often can see that the journalists is not quite interested in the operation, but they want to interview someone that's from the country or the city they are in. Yes. So that's something we have to deal with at the media service. And then we have what I call the eyewitness principle.
Eyewitness principle, what's that then?
In ungefär 160 000 flyktingar I området runt Dolo Ado. UNHCR har
that's also about identification. The journalist wants to feel the viewer or listener to be even more identified with the person. So they want to interview someone that has been at the stage, at the scene, and being there and can say, I was there.
So there's a closer connection.
Exactly, yes.
I understand, Anna, what is a newsworthy item for you?
A newsworthy item is something unexpected, something dramatic or complex, or something we have to inform about. And it has to be useful to our readers or viewers.
And can you briefly tell us how you evaluate news items on your editorial staff?
I think it's just what I just said, and I think we have to be quick on the web to inform if something has happened around the world or nearby, and then we work with it. So we have to talk to people that are on the site or wherever it happens, and we need to have trustworthy sources, of course, to work with for the newspaper.
Eric, we've just heard from Anna that a good newsworthy item is something that differs from the usual everyday stuff. Can you give us a good example of that?
I got one classic. Dog bites master. that's no news. That's what you expect. But master bites dog. That's a good news. That's unexpected and not what you think will happen. So that's a good example. And you must think about what's news and interesting for you. It's not automatically interesting and good news for a journalist. And that's why I advise you to contact MSB Media Service to make this news evaluation about what you want to talk with the journalist about.
Okay. Eric, the MSB is appearing in the media more and more nowadays. Why is that?
The journalists they learn that MSB exists, and they have also learned that we are dealing with interested questions.
Yeah. But what is the purpose of the MSB participating in the media then?
It's quite simple, actually. If you're not seen, you don't exist.
Right, what do you mean by that?
Well, let's hear. Firstly, radio, TV, papers, and even social media are effective channels for reaching out with our message of a safer and more secure society in a changing world.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And secondly, the image of the MSB in the media affects our options for influencing the decision makers that give us assignments.
Yeah.
And thirdly, the media is good for disseminating information about a range of issues.
Okay.
Yes.
But you mentioned social media, but what is the MSB involvement in social media then?
Because our viewers, if I can call them viewers, they are at different social medias.
Yeah.
And we have to be there too. We can't only be on traditional media.
Yeah.
We have to be in new media like social media. So that's why we are in, for example, Twitter, Facebook, and we even have films at YouTube.
Okay, thank you. Eric, what actually happens then when you're contacted by a journalist?
There are usually two routes.
Yeah.
Either the journalist has been referred to you from some of us at the MSB Media Service, but it can also be so that the journalists have called the switchboard and asked for some that works with your questions, and the switchboard has connected you to the journalist.
Yeah.
And then he have been connected to you without first speaking to the media service.
Okay, right. But what do I actually do when I've got a journalist on the line? How do I respond?
I suggest that you find out what questions he will ask you, and then you consider whether or not you are the right person. And then you say to the journalist, I have to call you back, I have to check it out first. And then you call us at the media service and ask, shall I be the one to be interviewed or is it somebody else?
And if I am the person to be interviewed, do I have to answer the questions directly?
No, I recommend that you avoid answering directly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. But if I feel confident and certain, do I still have to call the press, the media service?
Yes. We at the media service, we need to know what questions are going to be asked of the MSB, and we have to. Sometimes the same questions are asked to different persons at MSB, and then we have to coordinate it. So the answers will be the same, if you understand what I mean. And then we will give you a good service and to kind of give you feedback what the response will be in media. So please always contact the media service when you're contacted by journalists. And you don't have to ask us for permission to ask the questions, but we want you to tell us that you have been interviewed.
Okay.
Yes.
How do I know how to act then? How do I know what to do?
We have some simple advices on a small card, and if you look at those advices, what to do and what not to do, you have. I think you can make it.
Yeah. Okay. Erik, what should I consider during overseas operations?
You should always talk to your team leader first, because there can be difference in the regulations from mission to mission about press contacts, and also because of the organization you are working for, if it's MSB or UN or EU, NATO, or an organization like the Red Cross, for example.
Why do such differences exist?
It's because of cultural differences, and it's also a matter of safety, a safety issue.
Okay, do I then get no support from the MSB's media service when I'm deployed on an overseas operation?
No, of course you do. You can always contact the MSB Media Service 24/7, and you can contact MSB Media Service by calling the duty officer, tjänsteman i beredskap at MSB.
And how is contact from journalists actually handled?
And we at the MSB Press Service don't give any personal information to the journalist about you or contact information. We always contact you or your team leader first and discuss if you should take this interview, and then you or your team leader can contact the journalist.
Yeah, okay, and is there anything else I should think of?
We have this code of conduct that I think is very good and gives you a lot of advices and about press contacts and also social media. For example, this: you should also be restrictive in providing photographs. Consult with your team leader first if it's okay to send pictures from the operation to the journalist. Yeah. Another thing is to be restrictive in how you talk about your work on the operation on social media. This is all about your and your team's safety. Feel free to use social media, including information retrieval, but use it with caution.
Erik, how do you decide who should speak to the media?
Some organizations have very strict regulations about that. It's only the head of the organization or the media service. Here at the MSB, it's the principle that the person who knows the subject best, that should be the spokesperson to media.
Olyckorna, alltså skallskador och så har ökat.
I äldreboende, det har varit bränder i fritidshus.
Yeah, so basically anyone is able to speak to journalists.
First of all, we have the constitutional governmental right that everybody has the right to speak to media. But it's very important to distinguish, however, is when one speaks to media, if it's on private matter or if it is as a spokesperson for MSB. Are you to be a spokesperson for MSB, you should be approved by your manager or the MSB media service first.
Okay, and what are your selection criteria for that?
If they are normal subjects, it should be the person at MSB that knows the subject best.
Yeah.
If it's some criticism against MSB or something that MSB have to defend, I think it should be a manager or person at the head of MSB.
Förebygga ett oljepåslag på land så är ju det naturligtvis någonting som får stora konsekvenser.
If it's about policy issues or issues with the political dimension, is the director general or from deputy that will be respond.
But sometimes there are specific individuals who respond.
Having specific spokespersons for various events and issues is convenient, I would say, because then we have a channel to the media, one channel to the media. Partly there are spokespeople for everyday issues, and partly a spokesperson is appointed in connection with specific subjects. Whoever it will be depends on the type of subject, sensitivity, and character.
Okay, and what type of help and support is available if one feels unsure before an interview?
The MSB Media Service is on hand with support and advice for each interview. We can also assist and coach as needed. If you have regular contact with media and don't feel satisfied with the situation, we can offer a media training course, and then you will be trained in front of a camera, and that's something that I recommend very much.
Eric, what exactly is the MSB's media service?
It's a part of the information section at MSB. It's both the press officer, daytime, and outside daytime during nights and evenings and on weekends. It's the duty information service. So we can always reach the MSB media service.
And what are your actual tasks?
Oh, that's a lot of things. It's, for example, we coordinate the MSB media contacts.
Yeah.
We provide advice and support for media contact.
Yeah.
Yes. And plan proactive media activities, for example, press releases, press invitations, and press conferences.
Yeah.
Yes. And we produce speaking points and prepare spokespersons.
Yeah.
Yes. And offer media training.
Yeah.
And coordinate the MSB's information preparedness organization.
Yeah.
And we monitor the standing of the MSB in the media by reading press clippings and by compiling media summaries for MSB persons. The MSB media service is there for you to serve you in your contacts with media. We will answer your phone calls and emails round the clock. You can reach us at phone number +46 70 321 8874. You can also send us an email at address infober@msb.se. infober@msb.se.